So it's saying we're going live. I never know when we're live or when we're not. It's always a bit of a... Good morning. We are live on Facebook, allegedly. I never know till we get there. I just put it on my phone because that's when I know that we are actually live. Let's have a look. Are we live? Yes, we're live. So yes, we are live on Facebook. So no swearing, Claire. I do like a swear, so I have to watch myself. So I'll just wait for a couple of people to pop in before we start properly. But my friend Jen is watching. She's very interested in this. Good morning, Jen. Morning, goddess, as she says. Jen's sort of I do stuff in Maidstone to do with the goddess, and Jen does a lot of stuff to do with goddess spirituality in sort of the Folkestone area. And we're a bit of an unholy alliance, me and Jen. So in a good way. Of course I am, she says. So yeah. So well, we'll make a start. And I'm hot in here. I never know whether to have the heater on or not in this room because it gets cold. But Jen is looking forward to this. So we'll make a start. So morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you today, and I'd like to welcome my special guest, Anita Davies. Good morning, Anita.
Good morning, everyone.
But Anita, bless her, she answered the call of frantic, who knows anybody that does Chinese astrology? And Anita's friend with a lady I vaguely know called Nova. And Nova volunteered her and went, I know, my friend Anita knows all about Chinese astrology. Good morning, Mark. Have you got our friend Mark from Belper in Derbyshire? How is it in Derbyshire this morning, Mark? He's somebody that we've met doing these, which is rather lovely. Anyway, so Anita answered the call and went, yeah, I can talk about Chinese astrology. So Anita, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how come you got to be here today?
So I'm Anita and I live in Bridgend in Wales. And just interestingly, Mark, my sister lives up in Derby, so she's from your area of the country. Lovely place. I enjoy going up to Derby and visiting it and having a look at the city and going to the outdoor areas for walks and stuff. But yeah, lovely place. But yeah, so I actually got into this, I've got into complementary therapies about, it'll be nearly 15 years ago now. Because I was actually having a divorce, having a baby and moving a house at the same time. Oof. And I had lots of other stuff going on in my life as well. So it was a bit like, I got to do something about this. And it was a sort of like, well, do I go to the doctors or do I kind of, do something for myself? So I decided to go down the complementary therapy route because I just knew the going to the doctors thing wasn't going to work for me anyway. I'm just really hopeless. I can't even take a paracetamol. So, I decided to go down to the complementary therapy route, and I got into crystals and I did my Emmett training, and I did lots and lots of wonderful different types of therapies that have just been absolutely amazing and changed my life. And then part of the therapies I was doing some energy medicine with Donna Eden, and she's a wonderful woman for anybody to look at.
Donna, yeah.
Yeah, well, I did some training with her. I did the 5-day course, and Kim Dowdell, who I did my crystals with, who's another wonderful woman, and Madison. I did a lot of my energy work with them, and I learned about the 5 elements, which I just absolutely love, and I love the way in which they, and that's all about based on Chinese. It is about the ancient arts of that, how the meridians work, how they interact with 5 elements, how they interact with chakras and the other layers of all your energy system. So they all come together, and I just love all of that. And I work with a lot of that with people in the therapeutic work that I do. But in my day job, I'm also a locality development manager for a charity called Sight Life, and we support people when they lose their sight. And so I sometimes will use some of my knowledge around those things to help people when they're in a really difficult state around the fact that they're losing their sight, and they think, oh, that's it, life is over, what do I do? Because they can't drive, they can't read, they can't do lots of things. And so some of the knowledge and stuff I kind of use in different ways to try and help them move forward their lives. And then last last year about September-ish, I was on one of these network things, and a lady said, oh, I'm doing a course in Chinese astrology. And of course, with my element knowledge and that kind of background, I thought, oh yeah, I'd love to do this. So I did my Chinese astrology training, and it's been amazing. It was just been such a, like, you know, those light bulb moments where you just like, oh yeah, everything just fits into place.
Do you know, when I first met, in inverted commas, Anita, we had a phone call, didn't we? And I could hear your enthusiasm for it down the phone. Do you know what I mean? And I was saying, so what do you know about Chinese astrology? And Anita was like, oh, blah! And I was like, this lady knows what she's talking about, and she's got a passion for it, which is really groovy. And we've got Natasha watching, Jay, Sharon, Fiona, oh, and Sophie, my daughter. Good morning, darling. And Nicola. So we've got quite a crowd watching us. So
oh, well done.
So we're definitely live, we're definitely doing something. So that's how you got into it, and I can hear your passion in it. What is it that you love? Just that it all combines together? I heard you talking about chakras and crystals and that, and the elements, and is it just that it combines it, do you think, that is your thing?
I think what I love about it is that it helps me understand that person that I'm, you know, talking to, working with, friends with, people in my family. So when something's going on with, you know, something's going on with a particular person, and it could be, you know, your friends, some of your family, one of your children, you can look at their chart and you can go, yeah, that's it. And I'll just give you a really quick example. So with all my different therapies, I do a technique called EAM, which is, again, it's just an amazing tool. But I've been working really hard. The last, I don't say 2 years, I've been working, trying to work on, well, what is this feeling I have about my dad, this emotion that I kind of get I get now and again, that I get triggered on, you know, I didn't know how much work I was doing on my other therapies and stuff, I could not work it out. And then one night when we were doing the training with the Chinese astrology, and we were actually talking about the relationship between the horse and the ox and the horse. And of course, I'm in a 10-year horse period at the moment, which is going to finish in 2025, which I can't wait for it to finish, because I go to my goat and I won't have this horsey oxy thing going on there. But my dad is a horse in his day pillar. Well, he's got 2 horses actually, and so have my daughter. And when she was explaining the relationship between the horse and the ox and the horse, I was just like, oh my gosh, that is it. That is why I feel this undercurrent emotion going on. And of course, it's kind of like this, where you almost feel like, and then kindness, you know, you sort of think, oh, well, why does he say that? Why doesn't he ring me like he does, you know, my other brothers and sisters? And you have this kind of thought process goes on your head, and you tell yourself a story. And it's when I realized that, I was just like, that's all it is. It's just that my ox because he's my dad, and my ox is in my month pillar, yeah? And he's a horse in his day pillar. So he's in my father pillar, and I'm an ox, and he's a horse in his day pillar. And it's just kind of that emotional
clash of
horns goes on, you know. Yeah, because my dad is the most loving, most wonderful man you could meet. I mean, he's one of these people who he's in the room and everybody, he lights up the room. He can go to somewhere completely new or go into a pub and he will literally know everybody in the pub. You know, he's just one of those wonderful people. So I know that it's like, it's not that he doesn't love me or anything, but you feel this kind of unspoken emotion that you're like, well, what's all that about? Like, why am I thinking that? And as soon as I realized it was my ox and his horse, I was just like, and that was 2 years of trying to release what my thought process, you know?
And it might just be that he felt your brothers and sisters needed more of his time and attention, that you were okay, but it took a while to understand. Oh, that's really fascinating. So, and that's obviously, like, I think most people watching know that you've got the sort of the 12, it is 12 signs, isn't it? Like you have like the zodiac we're used to with
yeah, 12 animals, yeah.
So in the Chinese zodiac, there are 12 animals, and they vary slightly. Sometimes it says goat, sometimes it says sheep.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Rabbit and hare, they vary, don't they, depending on
They're the same though. It's just that some people
yeah,
call them.
just different names. So Chinese astrology, we know we've got the 12 and that's based on the year as opposed to the month you were born, isn't it?
Right, so it's year. So the animal reflects, well, all the animals and the elements are actually, they can be the hour, the day, the month, the year, and the 10-year.
Right.
They have that relationship to all of those things.
Okay.
So like just ox, for example, is 1 till 3 in the morning.
Okay.
So if you were born between 1 and 3 in the morning, then you would probably have ox in your hour pillar, as an example.
Right.
Yeah. But if you were born in January, you would probably have ox in your month pillar.
Okay, so that really is in depth. So that pinpoints, rather than saying you're a rooster because you were born in whatever year, you've then got the hour you were born, the month you were born has a bearing on it, as well as the year you were born.
And the day you were born, yeah. So the hour, the day, the month, and the year. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, then we've got the elements, which I didn't know about until quite recently. So your elements are metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Is that right?
That's right.
So they go in, is it 10-year bracket? 10-year?
Well,
in general.
So, yeah. So there's 5 elements, but because we have a yin and a yang of each element, so that's a masculine and feminine version of each element. So they go in a cycle of 10, yes.
Gosh, there's an awful lot to it, isn't it? It's not just, and I know, it's easy to go, what am I? Am I year of the pig? I'm year of the pig, aren't I?
You are, hang on, I'll tell you. So this is the interesting thing, is that, so I was born in the year of the rat, 72. Yeah. But actually, I'm in January. So even though in 72, so the year changes in the February, you see. Yeah. But I was born in the January. So I was actually born, I was still in the pig period when I was born. But because the Chinese New Year goes from February, people would say, oh, well, you were born in the year of the rat, which I was born in the year of the rat. So I had, for 11 months of the year, I actually was experiencing rat, but I was actually born in pig.
It's like my son is 1st of February, and the year he was born, he actually, I looked it up, and it was unusually, it changed on the 31st of January that year. So normally you'd think he would be the year before, if that makes sense. He would have been the 94 year because he's the 1st of February, but that particular year, 1995, Chinese New Year was the 31st of January. So he literally just snuck in, a day early, really. He was early, actually. And because obviously Chinese New Year is in February, isn't it?
Yes, it is normally, yeah. I mean, the date will fluctuate, like you said, it can go kind of end of January through to kind of the big,
the middle, because it was the 12th this month, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah. So it was kind of later this year than I expected it to be, but because it was only on Friday. Friday.
Friday. Okie dokie. So
yes, your pig in your chart, you've got in your year you've got pig.
In my year, pig, because I'm April.
A yin metal pig.
A yin metal pig. So what does is that feminine or masculine?
Yin is feminine.
Of course. And what the elements, so you've got the yin and yang, which is masculine and feminine. It doesn't mean that somebody so if mine was yang, it wouldn't mean that I was a complete tomboy. But I actually was, as a child, I was a tomboy. I was a real tomboy.
Yeah, I was. And I'm actually a yin. I'm a yin. And that's funny, actually, because you're a yin, I'm a yin, and we were both tomboys. But
and perhaps we just like boys, Anita. I don't know. Nobody that knows me answer to that. I know some people watching are probably going, yeah, we can say that. My daughter's watching. Stop it, people. And actually, some of the people watching, it'd be interesting because Anita's done my chart. So some of the people watching know me really, really well. Like, I've been friends for years, and my daughter's watching, and it'd be interesting when if you say, oh, but such and such, they'll be like, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. So when because you do charts for people, don't you?
I do charts for people,
Right.
yes.
So obviously you work out what somebody is based on, excuse me, based on so we've got several layers here. So we've got what they were based on the year. So we know I'm a pig. Yeah.
You're a yin metal pig, yes.
Yin metal pig. So, and can I be a yang metal pig as well?
You can't be yang and pig, yang
No.
metal and pig. You can, because the column, the whole column would be, if your animal is feminine, then your element would be feminine. Does that make sense?
Yes. So which animals are feminine then? Which animals are yin?
Right. So the animals that are yin would be pig, rabbit,
yeah,
ox, sheep, and snake.
And snake.
Oh,
right,
and
okay.
I've left one out somewhere. Hang on.
That was 6.
There should be, yeah. So pig, ox, sheep,
snake,
rabbit, snake. That's 5. What have I left out? Hang on. Snake is fire. Earth has got 2, so that's sheep and ox. And wood is rabbit. And yes, so that's the 5 elements of the 5 animals.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But for the yin, the female versions.
Right. Okay. So that means that rooster is.
Oh, and rooster. Sorry, I forgot rooster.
Rooster's yin.
Yeah, rooster's yin. I was thinking, yeah, I forgot the metal.
So what's I'm confused already, so I'm trying to keep up. So
there's 6 animals that are female, so 6 animals that are male.
Right. So the males would be dragon.
Yes.
Tiger.
Yes.
Horse. Is there a bull or a cow?
No, the ox would be the
ox,
that's feminine. Yeah.
And then what's the, so we've got 3 more.
So you've got
monkey.
You've got dog and monkey.
Dog, monkey, and one more. Can't think what the one is.
No, it's a dog, monkey.
Yeah.
Dragon. Horse. Tiger. And dog. So dragon, dog, monkey, horse, tiger, and what's this one? What have I left out? Monkey is metal.
Rabbit.
No, rabbit's feminine.
Rabbit's feminine. Yeah. So we've got Jenny saying she's a rabbit, and Nicola's saying she's a yin earth ox. They know me very well. Don't listen to anything they say.
So that would depend if they're saying that that's in their day or their year.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a look at that in a minute, won't we?
Yes.
But so, okay. So then you've got obviously what your element is. So we said that was wood, earth, fire, metal, and fire, earth, metal, wood, and what's the other one?
The easiest way to remember is earth, metal, water, wood, fire, because they all feed each other.
They all feed each other. I've seen that on a chart, and they all kind of, it forms a pentagram of the flow, doesn't it? The in and the out flow, which is really interesting. So once you've got that and you've put in, I know you did the time with mine. Do you want me to put that up so you can talk about mine?
Yep.
Yep. So, you know, those right. So Anita's very kindly done a chart for me. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and you can see. I think this is the first one, Anita, that you sent me. Is that the first one?
So, no, that's your 10-year pillar. So you need the other one.
The other one, right? Okie dokie. Yeah. Stop share. Helps
so
if I get the right thing, doesn't it?
We'll come back to that one later.
Helps if I get the right thing, right? Okay, photos. Is it the one with the dial in the top corner?
It's one that's got 4 pillars, 4 blue pillars on it.
There we go. This one?
Yep, we can use that one. Yeah,
that's one. Right. Okay, this is me. So those of you that know me, Yes. So what does this tell you about me then, Anita?
So the first two things it tells me is that in your main pillar, that's these 4 blue pillars, yeah?
Yeah.
So obviously it's got your hour, your day, your month, and your year. So it tells me that you've got earth, metal, and water in your chart.
Right.
But you don't have, in those 4 pillars, you don't have any fire or wood.
Right.
So you don't have them as kind of natural elements, if you like, in your chart. Now you have got them, you know, you've got some wood in your hidden stems, which is the very bottom column.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that means that you, for example, you've got some wood in this. You could, if you were doing any work around kind of bringing that wood essence in, you would, you know, you'd be able to feel that wood essence.
Right. Okay.
But you don't have any fire in those hidden stems. So so fire, the elements of fire, the attributes, the characteristics, all of those aspects of fire, you wouldn't have in your natural kind of personality and makeup. But the interesting thing is that in your 10-year pillar, 10-year pillars, which is the first chart you pulled up, I don't know if you can very quickly go back to pulling that up for me. But if you look at that 10-year pillar, you will see that I'll explain in a second once you pull it up. Yeah. No, that's the one you just
the same one
again. Yeah, you need to just go back to the one that's got like lots of pillars in it. The one that's got about 10 pillars in it.
There you go.
8 pillars rather. So on that one, if you notice, it's got like a little blue marker on the top white columns, which tells us which pillar you're in at the moment. So
there I am.
In April, you'll be changing, because your pillar ends now in 2021, April 2021. And it'll go into a new pillar, which is the one next door to it. So that'll be coming into your 5th pillar.
Is that when I reach my half a century, Anita?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm surprised I've made it.
It's interesting because like people's lives start to, you know, when they get to their 5th, 6th pillar, you know, they will notice kind of lots of changes in their life, you know, whether they be changing their job, their relationships, their interest, you know, their life might completely turn around and as if like they got this new life, or they might just sort of think, oh, why is all this stuff happening to me? You know, it may be good, but bad or indifferent. But if you look at your pillars before that, so even though you don't have fire in your natural charts, but you've actually been through a lot of fire in your other pillars. And that's interesting because, you know, fire, even though you don't naturally have it, but fire has been in those 10 pillars, either through the animals or through the elements. And so the next one you're going into is actually going into Yin Fire Rooster. So you're going to have another, you know, 10 years of being in a fired element. And if I was, for example, you were one of my clients, I would be checking about looking at, well, how are you feeling the essence of fire, so you can take full advantage of having that fired in your chart, in your elements, you know, if that's something that is going to be important for you going forward. So we look at the relationship between the elements. So for just as an example, so fire feeds earth, but fire can melt get my words up. Fire can melt metal. So if you imagine that relationship to them, so you're and you have a lot of metal in your chart, so you know the fact that you don't have fire as a natural component in your chart means that even though it's in your 10-year pillars, there's an influence of fire there in your 10-year pillars, but it's on your main chart, so it doesn't have that same impact on your metal as if you had that lots of metal with your fire in your main chart, the first chart that we looked at. So in this 10-year thing you're going into next now is going to be in April, you'll be changing into Yin Fire Rooster, which will be interesting for you because If you want to go back to the first chart for me.
Yeah.
And also in your hidden stems, you've got a lot of fire in that, whether you've just showed up, there's a lot of fire in the hidden stems with some of your wood.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, hang on, that's not that one, is it?
It is that one, yeah.
That one, yeah. It's interesting because as I said to you earlier, in sort of, I wouldn't say Western astrology. Oh, that's all right, Tony. She didn't mean an angry face. She was trying to make the expand the screen. I think she's having a moment with the technology. I'm an Aries, so I'm supposedly full of fire, but a lot of people have said I'm not a typical Aries, and obviously that is it's but I've got quite, I'm fiery and I have got a temper, but I'm not. Are we looking at fire in a different way?
So fire, so the anger and things, I mean, fire is more represented. The emotion that comes around fire is things like, for example, anxiety, and fire is also about like how a person, that. So a positive of fire is somebody who really feels that kind of joy and happiness in their life. Yeah, a fire element is somebody who comes into a room and people they're almost like a light bulb that comes into them, because people can kind of naturally gravitate towards, because this kind of essence of happiness and joy that they give up often, they can naturally talk to people. But this is a bit I was going to go on to about your chart, because you've got 2 roosters in your chart, so you've got a lot of metal in your chart as well, because you've got your 2 roosters.
I have.
And you've got your yin metals, you've got yang water. Hang on, let me just look at my, so I haven't got to magnify my screen on your
no, that's all right,
your computer. I'm just going to put mine up on my other iPad, just because it makes it
easier.
Yeah. So your personality basically is you're a yin metal rooster,
right?
And that's your day personality, and that's what everything always comes back to. Okay. So when people say I'm a such and such and such and such, they may be going by by their year pillar, because quite often people will quote what their year pillar is. But the year pillar is more about their networks, their friends, and it's kind of that first pillar that everything comes into. But your personality, your soul, your essence, the trueness of you, that real kind of like core person of you, the thing that everybody gets to know and loves and understands, is that day pillar.
Right.
Yeah. So everything else in your chart comes back to that day pillar. So we always look at, well, what's going on in the day pillar, then
that's this one here, isn't it? There.
And your day pillar is your yin, your yin metal rooster. So basically that would say to me that what people see is what they get. Yeah. So it's like what you put out to the world and what you show to people in your inner personality is the same. There's kind of no holding back. It's sort of like, this is who I am, love me or like me, and you want everybody to kind of, you see everybody as a kind of on as a friend level, as an equal level. So there's no kind of like you wouldn't be, it's not about judging people. What I'm saying is that you see everybody as kind of, you want to be treated as an equal, and you would want to be treating people as an equal, because you're the same above as you are below. So when the person has something, a different element above maybe to the one below, so if we just look at your month pillar, for example, you've got yang, water, dragon. So you've got water on the top and dragon underneath. So when you're in, so this pillar is around your parents, your health, and your work.
Yeah.
So when anything happens in that pillar, so when your 10 years when your 10-year chart changes, or when the particular day we're on, the particular month we're on, the particular year we're in, so we're going to Ox year now, yeah. So Ox now will be having a different relationship to what Rat did with your pillar last year, because we're going into Ox. Yeah. So your yang water in your month pillar is that bit that you show out to everybody. So when you go out to do your work, in your career, every aspect of your work, is you're going out as a yang water. So everybody will see you as yang water. That's the characteristics that you give within your work. But then as those people get to know you and you become closer to them in your work, could be a client or colleague, it doesn't really matter, but they'll actually also then see the essences and the characteristics of your dragon.
Ooh.
No,
what does my dragon do?
So, well, dragons are mystical creatures, they're the spiritual creatures, and they're very quick thinkers, and they're also like very lucky. So but also dragon is an earth element, so earth is nurturing. But if you imagine dragons are like, so if you were a yang earth, we would say like you're like a mountain, yeah. But if you imagine like a dragon is a big, strong creature, that has these kind of natural abilities and powers to be able to support and help people and nurture people and give them sort of some wisdom, if you like, some help them have some clarity in their life. But they're also an earth element is wanting to kind of take a step back and think about what they're doing. So even though dragons are very kind of quick in what they do as well, but you would be quick in what you do, but you would also be, considering and thinking about what you're doing in order to make that informed decision about what you're doing. So yang water is also a fast moving element. So both of those elements are fast moving, but also because the earth part of that would also be wanting you to think about and consider within your work pillar, within the work that you do. So this is all focused around your work, but it would be getting to kind of think about, well, shall I do this or shall I do that? So you'll be thinking about it, but then you'll be wanting to take action on it quite quickly. Yeah. And your yang water part of that, the part that you give out to the world. Well, if you imagine yang water is like the ocean, yeah. So you have this like massive ability to, you could actually own your own business or be very creative. You've got this massive amount of energy to be able to do, to be an entrepreneur. And actually be kind of very successful at that because you have this yang water ability. And part of that yang water will also enable you to attract people to you, but in a different way to what a yang fire would. So a yang fire would be the sun, if you like, but yang water is the ocean. And what does everybody love to do when the sun is out? They love to go to the sea, don't they? What do everybody, regardless of whether it's a rainy, stormy day, but what do people still like to do? They still like to go and see the sea, don't they?
Even on a stormy day, I love the sea. I love a stormy sea. I love a tranquil sea. I do seek out water, which is interesting. And that's what you said about work. And I would like to think I am quick thinking, and I've gone through a million possibilities in my head in a relatively short time. And I do try, especially if I'm angry or upset, I try not to respond there and then. I try to calm and think about it rationally. And I think that's probably, and I am full of energy. I'm annoyingly so, I get these bouts of energy and I do a lot of things. So that is really, really interesting, Anita, because that is, and Jen's put, what you see is exactly what you get. She's absolutely lovely and does see everybody as a friend. Oh, thanks, Jen. But that, at least she didn't say, no, it doesn't sound the slightest bit like her. But that's, but the, and when you were saying that, I was thinking one of my sayings that I know I say a lot, and I don't know if my daughter Sophie's still watching, but I would say one of the things I say quite a lot is I'm no better than anybody else and no worse than anybody else. And that is something that treating people as an equal is definitely something that, and being treated as an equal, I get very het up about things that I feel is unfair when people are picked on. I hate bullying. So that's very, very interesting. Yeah. And the bit about the work and about the, I am quick thinking. Let's not be modest here. I am quick thinking. My brain does spin on a sixpence quite quickly, and I will very quickly sum up all the options to me. So it might be quick thinking, but I've gone through it's not always the very first thing that's come into my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does, because even in your hour pillar, so your hour pillar is about your thinking, and it's about how you go through things. And of course, you're the opposite way around in your hour pillar, because you're a yin earth pig in your hour pillar, but in your work pillar, you're a yang water dragon. So but both of them would indicate to me that, you know, so the dragon and the yang water, they're very fast flowing, they're very fast moving. Everything's kind of it's kind of almost like it's got to be done impatiently, but the earth part of it, and also the pig is adaptive. The pig has to be flexible, it has to be adaptable, so you can't be constrained in any way. Because you've got you've got two pigs in your chart, so that means that, you know, yin water cannot be if imagine the wind water's like the cloud, so clouds have to be able to move around everywhere. You never see a cloud really being stuck still, do you? I mean, the cloud doesn't just kind of, I mean, if it stays still, it's gonna like empty all its rain out of it and then move on, isn't it? You know, so if you imagine that, like, the water has got to flow, regardless of whether you're a yang water, a yin yang water, but you've got to flow. If you don't have that flow, then you become stagnant. If you become stagnant, then you become a rather unhappy, unhealthy person. Definitely. So in your thinking or in your work, you have to have that flexibility around your thoughts and things. But the yin earth, anything to do with earth, indicates that, you know, you want to be able to take time and consider about what you're thinking, so you can make informed choices and the right decisions about what you're doing before you actually go and make the decision. But sometimes you might so you might have a bit of a conflict there, because of course, if you look at the chart of the element chart, water directs earth directs water. So like earth is, you've got earth, and then you've got metal, and then you've got water. So in your chart, because you're all water, earth and metal, so what happens is your day pillar is your metal, and so your day pillar, your metal, is always going to produce your water, and your earth is going to be feeding your metal, but your earth is also going to be structuring your water. And the way to kind of get that analogy around your head is, if you imagine that the water comes from the top of the mountain, and either side of the stream, you've got earth, haven't you? You've got the banks of the river. And the river, the banks of the river are directing that water down to the sea. Yes. So it's kind of holding the water in the direction it wants it to flow. Yeah. So that's the way I try to kind of explain this to people, is that, so in your chart, you've got this relationship between the three, because you don't have, obviously, the fire and the wood naturally. So what happens in your chart is there's a combination between your metal produces your water, but then your earth, because your earth actually controls your water, so it directs the water in the way you want it to go. Okay, so and then they have the relation, and your earth also produces your wood, so they have that relationship between each other. Okay, awesome. So is that quite common to not have sections in your chart? Like you said, I've got no wood or fire, or very little. It's interesting, because a lot I don't know how common or uncommon it is, only based on charts that I've done for other people, but ideally, like, I've got all 5 elements in my chart. So I'm odd. But a lot of people's charts that I've done, a lot of people's charts I've done, they have at least one element missing. So I've done the whole of my family. I mean, this is the other thing I find really exciting about all of this, is that I've done all of my family's charts. And I've looked at, now commonly, you will have the same kind of animals that are, you know, in each other's charts. So we've got in our family's charts, we've got kind of in the day pillars, because that's the personality pillar, we don't really have any dragons, but we have lots of snakes and lots of horses.
Do you know, it's interesting because as you were describing mine, I was thinking that's my mum as well. So that's interesting. There's a familial link there. Oh wow, okay. So how do you use this? Because I know we were talking about Chinese medicine as well. So obviously you use this to help people as well, as it's not a fortune telling or I think it's
no, you could do fortune telling,
but it's really interesting because that was quite a lot of me. So we mentioned the meridians as well. So how do you use this to help and support people and heal people? Because I know that's something that you're interested in.
It is. So if I was looking at your chart, for example, in your day pillar, because you're both your metal through your day pillar. Yeah. So metal is basically large intestine and lung.
No, not intestine. Are you joking? Do you know what's happening tomorrow?
What?
I'm going back into hospital tomorrow to have a section removed of my colon.
Oh.
Because I've got a tumour.
Oh, right.
I know that you said intestine, but my intestines and my colon are acting right up at the moment. So yeah, I'm actually, that's why we haven't got a live next week, because they're taking a section out and resectioning it back together again. They're going to, I'll be calling it the disemboweling, but that's really bizarre. You should say that. That is so bizarre because that is actually happening tomorrow.
Oh, right. Okay. So
that fortune telling bit, I'm not so sure about, Anita.
So what I would be doing is looking at the person's chart and then looking at those meridians that respond to those elements and those animals. Yeah. And then and because those are the things, well, you do just give a really good example of it actually, but those are the things then that will predominantly, you know, come up around that person's health. So right. Also, for example, you in your physical, your day pillar is your physical body, and it's also your partner. So when I see somebody and they say to me, oh, so and so is going on in my life, I can look at their chart and look at their elements, and also if there are other people involved. So if there is something going on in a relationship with somebody, I can look at the other person's chart, and I can look at what maybe where that what the influences are that's going on there. So it could be that, you know, for example, metal don't. One of the things with metal is that it finds it hard to let go of things. So when things happen to them in their life, they kind of it almost like the grief and guilt is one of the emotions that kind of go with that, you know. So when something happens, they almost kind of hold on to that grief of something. So part of the work I would do would be looking at helping them balance their metal out, for example, to help them work on the letting go of the trauma or the grief or those emotions or other things that have happened to them. Because when you hold on to something that's happened in your life, then it will physically manifest in some way in your body. But it'll like I can't
digest it.
You say again?
I can't digest it, Anita. No, exactly. There's literally a physical blockage. I can't release all the stuff that needs to come out. I mean, it's that bad. They've given me a stoma bag. I've got a stoma bag higher up, just underneath my right boob, because it's blocked. So how true is that? And Anita didn't know this, because Anita's never actually clapped eyes on me till today, have you? No,
I never met you before, except for one conversation with you. No.
Yeah, and that's really, really strange. Because I know a friend of mine, Sarah Fitzgerald, she told me about the meridians ages ago. And about there's a time she was saying about when you she'd read something about the time you wake up in the night as well. Yes. Is an interesting thing about what your body's telling you by that.
It is. And if we just go back to what's interesting about it is that in the early hours of the morning is when we're supposed to let go and detox things from our body. So yin elements work in the morning to help with the detoxing of, so basically the large intestine, for example, kicks in between 5 and 7 in the morning.
Right.
That's when the large intestine is active. But you also then look at the opposite element to the large intestine at that time. So what's going on between 5 and 7 in the day, which element is that in? Because they all have a relationship with each other. And in your health pillar, you've got water and earth. And of course, earth is about like what is what we eat. So it's stomach and spleen. And so if we if we're under stress, or if we haven't been able to let go of things, we're under stress, then basically spleen is what feeds the rest of the energy system. And the chipper warmer, which is comes into the fire. Yeah, there's four meridians of fire, and chipper warmer sits within that. That actually takes the energy off spleen if it's under stress, because it has to have energy from somewhere, because its job is to keep you alive. So it will take off spleen. So that's fire to earth. Yeah. So fire is triple warmer, earth is spleen, and then metal is large intestine and lung, and that's about letting go. So the earth is taking in food, and it's feeding it to the metal to produce the metal, and then the metal is supposed to let that go to produce the water.
Okay.
Yeah, which then produces the fire, and it goes back around the cycle. So if there's stress anywhere in that process, it creates a blockage.
And I do stress, and they did say for years that this was IBS. And I have to be careful about certain foods because they do trigger it. So there is obviously an element of the IBS there, but obviously underlying things. So if you went to a place that does Chinese medicine, would they read your chart to be able to understand?
So somebody who works does Chinese medicine, they may not use the chart like this. So they would use other ways to work out what elements you are. So in Chinese medicine, you have 5 elements. Like this is looking at your chart to see which ones you've got, which ones you haven't. So but in Chinese medicine, as in like the actual Chinese medicine, you have 5 elements, and they would look to see which are the stronger elements you have. And they do that by the way you smell, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way the way you behave. And there is another one.
The way you smell.
Yeah, so we've all got each of our elements, each of our strong essence of an element has a smell. They're not all pleasant smells. It smells a bit like your food bin. You have that like rotten smell from a food bin. Yeah. It could be that smell, but it could also be like like the earthy smell. Like when you go into it's just been raining or something, and you go into nature and you smell that kind of earthy smell. So it could be rancid, it could be earthy, it could be like a vinegary smell.
Yes, acidic.
It can be metal, it's a bit acidic. So if you think of the elements and what smell might go with each of those. So
that's interesting.
When somebody's very unwell in their physical body, when you walk into somebody's bedroom in the morning, there's a smell in the bedroom which isn't always nice. it's almost that. It's like
definitely. But do you know, I mean, I've done palliative care, and obviously that's something that interests me, and there is a definite aroma when somebody is dying. There is definitely and I don't think any of the nurses are watching, but there is definitely a smell, and I think anybody who's ever nursed anybody, or there is a smell that is it's not wholly unpleasant, but you just know that that's what it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't tend to smell like maybe like flowers or something, a really nice flower, but it'll have like I said, I've noticed that when I've been with worked with certain people that there's been a smell about them that's reminded me of the food bin. That certain things that I'm going to put into the food, you know, when my food bin is going to be full, is that kind of rotten. It's a smell of something rotten away. Do you mean? But I've got a really good sense of smell, to the point where I could tell you some hilarious stories, you know, about where my sense is somebody's gonna. I once had to sniff out gas for the gas man because he was all in. The gas pipes were in these boarded things, and instead of taking them off, my boss said to me, "Need to come and stand on my desk and sniff the pipes." So they only had to cut a bit of it away instead of the whole board away.
Oh my god!
That was probably one of the funniest things I've ever done.
Oh my god!
It was kind of a bit weird, but it is one of those when they do the Chinese elements. And they're looking at your personality, they just look at like what your elements are in a different way. I just find this is an easier way. I can just put your date of birth in for a chart and go, right, you got this, you got that. And also because I work within the 5 elements anyway, I can sort of go, right, okay, because of this, you've got these elements that go with these meridians. This is in your health pillar. So these particular things might be going on, or maybe they're not. And these are the things that you need to pay attention to in your life in case.
So it's a good starting point and guidelines for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know you said as well you work with energy. So how do you I'm just conscious of the time, it's coming up for 12. Can you believe that? So just quickly, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you work with healing wise? Am I right in thinking you do energy healing?
Yeah, no, I do. So for example, if I was looking at your chart, then, and I was looking at you, then I would have all of this say to be right, okay, this is what's going on in your chart. But because you've got your so depending on what it is your issue is, you've come to me for. But I would be looking at, okay, let's have a look at your wood and your earth. And let's see if that is important to bring in. The essences of that are important to bring in. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. You can bring it in through what you eat, the activities you take part in, the clothes you wear, you know, the color of the clothes.
Okay.
Color. There's loads and loads of different ways you can bring it in.
So colours correspond to the elements as well, do they?
They do, yeah.
Oh, okay. And they food?
And food, yeah.
Right.
And food. So if you needed, say if you would, because you've got a lot of metal in your chart, so I would, for example, say to you, avoid acidic things because you've already got a lot of metal in your chart. So if you ate a lot of, things like oranges and stuff, they're a natural acidic. So that's okay. But if you had like lots of vinegar on your chips, or you ate lots of food that had acidic stuff in it, then I'd say, you know, your body is going to find that harder to process because you've already got a lot of metal in your chart. Or but I would be looking at your fire, and I would be particularly interested in your fire and wood, and looking at why did you, so this might sound a bit crazy to some people, but as a soul we choose the day we're born on because that particular day gives us particular lessons. It gives us those elements at that particular day, time and month that we were born, and it may be that we're wanting to learn particular things in our lives and experience particular things. So I was born with my sight loss, so I know that there are things around that I was needing to learn about, not seeing the world in the same way as a sighted person does. So my interaction in the world would, if I was sighted, then I wouldn't have the same interaction in the world. So having my sight loss enables me to see the world in a different way. I have to see the world through my senses and through, you know, colour and shape and what I do have, but not in that detailed way. So so what I do is I look at, well, is there a reason that the wood and the fire hasn't come in? Do we need to bring it in? So some people I work with, where their chart, their elements are missing, we've actually looked at, is it completely missing? And can we actually bring in the essence of that? Because maybe that they've had, depending on what you believe in, they might have had past life traumas. They've not wanted to bring that element in. So we just kind of look at whether we need to heal something from the past, or whether it's kind of present day stuff. It's just a mixed bag of things, really. It just depends on looking at the person's chart and what's going on in their life, and looking at those 10-year pillars to see their journey, at looking at, well, what is it we need to work on? And it may be something around their relationships. And I can look at their chart and look at their relationships with their parents or their spouses or their children, because your children come up in your hour pillar.
Right.
And your parents come up in your month pillar. Your friends come up in your year pillar, and so do your grandparents. And your partner comes up in your day pillar. So each pillar represents different relationships. So
it's really complex. There's an awful lot in there, isn't there?
It's a massive amount.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And I just find it really exciting because, you know, I've been able to look at this and actually look at my relationship to my children, their relationship to me, and actually understand, you know, where maybe we are different. So my daughter's got tiger in her day pillar and I'm a snake. And of course, a tiger is a harm and a clash with a snake. So, but also because I'm fire and she is, so she's a metal, I'm fire with her metal, I'm also fire with her wood. So we have a relationship where I can't control, it's not good for me to try and control her because her wood feeds my fire, but my fire can melt her metal. So it's kind of the understanding that I need to be able to allow my daughter to give me the information that she needs to give me, and that I need to be cautious of like how much I might want to try and control her as a mother to a child. You know, you sort of go, you can't do this and you should be doing that, and because I can easily melt her metal, because
you just need to find the way to do it.
So yeah, so I just sort of go, I need to try and be cautious about how much, you know, maybe not be aware of like not shouting at it, or being aware of like how my behavior might affect her emotions, because I can easily melt her. So it's kind of like, well,
makes sense. If
you could do this, but you need to let me know like the time or the, you know, who you're with, or and we kind of have this you know, almost like an agreement where she informs me of like, well, Mum, I want to go with my friends. Is that okay? Yes, it is. What time are you going to be back? And so she gives me the information I want rather than me telling her what she has to do. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Because that's a good way to deal with teenagers too.
Yeah, well, that's right. But some people would need that structure, you know, they need you to sort of go, right, I need you to be back 9 o'clock, and they need you to give them those boundaries. But just because of the way mine and my daughter's relationship works, if I give her the boundaries, she will feel that I'm kind of trying to control her, because I have that control, because our elements naturally, I have natural control over her elements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so it's compromise based on the sort of the guidelines that this is showing you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Whereas you might need to have structure for somebody else. So
some people need structure.
If you were earth and your daughter was water, you would be structuring her water, but she would feel that you were trying to control her. So there might end up being this conflict then, because she was like, oh, you're always trying to control me. Yeah. But if it was the other way around and you were water and she was earth, then she would be wanting to give you information, because she would be structuring you. Yeah, she'd be controlling you. And then that might be a conflict. So if you understand the relationship, you can change the language. It's a bit like love languages. Do you know the love languages where you have to understand where the other person's come from?
Yeah.
It's the same with the elements. You know, each element has its own language, which is why I said they can work. A person who does Chinese medicine will understand who you are by the way you talk and the way you behave.
Fascinating. That's a whole nother topic of conversation, that, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Well, thank you, Anita. That's been absolutely fascinating. There's so much more to it than, I mean, I suppose if I got somebody who did what we would think of as normal astrology on, they would say, well, you're not just this, you're not just that, there's all this, and they talk about the houses there, and so you're talking about the pillars and the day, the months, and all the rest of it, and the elements, and it makes so much more sense than just saying I'm a pig, or going, oh, I'm a metal pig from 1971. Do you know what I mean? It makes so much more sense. So thank you so much for your time and coming on. I've really appreciated that. I've learned so much. I feel I need to go and read a bit more about it now to understand it more.
And one very last quick thing about this is that you can actually look at going forward, you can have a look at which month, which year, and which day is a good month or day or year for you to do something that you want to do in your life, whether that be get married, launch a business, change a job. You know, when you wanted to change or do something in your life, you can actually look at this and go, okay, this is mine. This is the, you know, whatever it is you're wanting to do. If you get married, this is my partner's chart. And then you can look at, well, what is the best day that we can actually go and get married because everything's working for you on that day? Or doing the same with your business. What is the best day for me to do my business? And you would look at, well, which combinations have you got? Because you have 3 harmonies, 6 combinations, you have stem combinations, you know, so you just, and so I've got a chart that I've done, which tells me, like, for the whole of this next 10 years, well, 12 years actually, like which elements and days are actually interacting. So I can actually now look at it and go, right, well, there's loads of earth going on that day, so maybe that wouldn't be such a great one for me, so maybe I'll pick this one because there's actually a combination of stuff going on, which actually is really good for my chart.
Works for your chart, yeah, okay.
I look in at my, so it works for that person's chart specifically,
Yeah. Jen's saying, are there any books, websites that you'd recommend?
So there are some, so if you want to, so depending on which layer of it you're wanting to learn, there are some, there's not a massive amount of books. It depends on which element you want to work. So if it's Chinese astrology, there is, I'm really rubbish at authors' names, so I'm going to have to come back with the links.
Yeah, do you want to put it in the
Chinese astrology book you can get. If you're wanting to learn about things like the elements, you know, people like Donna Reedon's are really good. She does a really, especially if you're a woman, she does a really good book for energy medicine and women, and does the meridians and things like that. But if you wanted to come in from it from purely a Chinese astrology perspective, I mean, you can do courses on Chinese astrology. And I mean, when I did was I think we ended up actually doing something like 7 weeks. But you know, it was amazing. And I mean, I'm hoping that I'll be able to do some really basic courses in doing this. But there are some books out there, not massive amount, but there is some books out there, you know, that will give you an idea about it. And there are websites, if you type into the internet Chinese astrology, there's some stuff that comes up around the animals and things. So you can have a better understanding of that.
Okay, so if you can put that book that you thought of when you remembered it in the comments afterwards, and then they can pick that up. But it's yeah, it's really fascinating. So I'm going to leave that there for now. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much, Anita, for coming on. I've got so much information here that just makes so much more sense. So I won't see you next week, but I'll see you the week after, when I've got Laura come to talk to us about yoga, and she's going to do some basic, I think she's going to do a little bit of mudras. Do you know what mudras are, Anita? They're the, yeah, she's got, what are mudras? They're, what are they? They're like intentions and little movements, but she's going to do some of those with us. So thanks again, Anita. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for everybody for listening.
Right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.